You are watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking Trey Hendrickson once again. Obviously, our video that went out last night, we kind of broke down all of the things that Hendrickson had to say on the Pat McAfee Show. Also, the things that Katie Blackburn had to say down in Florida that kind of led to some of the comments from Trey Hendrickson. But we do have another update. Ian Rapoport of NFL Network went on NFL Network last night after our video went out and kind of had some surprising details in regards to Trey Hendrickson and, of course, the whole situation with the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to be breaking down those comments from Rapoport as well as my own thoughts and opinions as well. But if you want more Trey Hendrickson updates, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button right now whenever, if ever, he reaches an agreement with Cincinnati in terms of a long-term deal. We will have a video for you guys, and I have a feeling we're just kind of getting going here with this Trey Hendrickson stuff. It's going to be a long road. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing drug out all the way into the summer and leading up to week 1 of the 2025 season. But we will be here for all of it, and don't miss out on any of our coverage. Hit that sub button, trying to get to 19,000 subscribers as well here at Bengals Breakdown. That's youtube.com/Bengals TV. All right, let's get into what Ian Rapoport had to say last night on NFL Network. He said he does deserve to be paid, and the Bengals believe he deserves to be paid as well. The Bengals don't really want to trade him. They want to keep him. They want him to be happy. They want him to get a number he wants. They want him to play for them, which brings us to the contract extension. They have had talks, per Rapoport, what he said. His words are right. He does not want to be the highest paid defender. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in around where Maxx Crosby is, maybe even a little bit under. They just haven't got to the number yet where he would say, all right, now I am properly compensated. All right, so have they had talks or have they not had talks? It's very much at this stage kind of getting to the whole he said, she said thing, right? Because Hendrickson went on Pat McAfee and said that the Bengals really hadn't gotten any contact with him. And then Rapoport's saying, no, that we have. And, of course, Blackburn at those meetings down in Florida went out there and said that, we have given him a number, but he is not happy with that number that we have proposed to him. I wonder what the real issues are when you're talking about Trey Hendrickson and this contract extension. Is it the years? Is it the average salary per year? What exactly is going on? And is Trey Hendrickson being more of a diva than he's acting like when he goes out there on the Pat McAfee Show and comments on this kind of stuff publicly? How much money does Trey Hendrickson want? Again, Rapoport just said his words were highest paid defender. I don't know if he meant edge rusher, but obviously edge rusher, that's really kind of a premium position behind quarterback, right? Obviously on the opposite side of the football. But where is he going to fit in as far as these highest paid edge rushers go in the NFL? Because Rapoport said, he could be up there with Maxx Crosby. Well, I love Trey Hendrickson. The production's been there. I don't think Trey Hendrickson deserves as much as Maxx Crosby, to be completely honest with you. Or his numbers better, sure, but I don't think he is more valuable necessarily to a football team than Maxx Crosby is for the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, that Danielle Hunter contract that we've been talking about a lot here, that just recently went down with Houston. That's something that he's certainly going to want to surpass. But where he ends up on this list, I truly don't know where Hendrickson wants to end up. He just keeps saying that he wants to be compensated fairly, but we don't know exactly what that looks like. And he also, of course, has alluded to wanting that guaranteed money as well. Look, taking this public was not the right idea from Trey Hendrickson. He must not know about the Cincinnati Bengals. If anything, they're just going to dig their feet in a little bit harder after he went out there on the Pat McAfee Show and did this. Now, Chase and Higgins, obviously their contract sagas were a big thing, right? Everybody was talking about it. You had the cap emoji or whatever from T. Higgins that he put out there on Twitter, but they really didn't go public with this. And I think the reason why things were able to get done so quickly in part was because they kind of, kept things to the chest, right? They didn't go out there and make a big scene publicly. Obviously, Joe Burrow a couple of years prior didn't do that as well. This isn't how you operate when you're dealing with the Cincinnati Bengals. Going out there and publicly, calling them out really is not going to help your case whatsoever. Now, maybe Hendrickson did this because he wanted to send a message to the other 31 teams of, hey, I'm disgruntled. I'm not happy at all with how Cincinnati is handling this. Come out and trade for me. Maybe that's why he ultimately made that decision, but I think that was something that his agent probably told him to do, and we've seen him do this in the past. This wasn't the first time he went on McAfee. He did it around the Super Bowl as well, and typically when you're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals going out there and publicly going after him, usually doesn't end well with the player. We will see if things change here for Trey Hendrickson. Leads to the pin comment of today's show. How much do you think Trey Hendrickson once per year. Because, again, he's acting like, oh, I don't want that much. I just want to be respected. I want to get what I deserve, right? Well, what's that number? We don't know what that is. How much do you think he wants to get paid? Let me know in the comments. It is the pinned comment of today's video. The ad's going to come here on YouTube. That's totally fine. You can ignore it. Get down in the comments. Sound off for us. All right, we are going to stick here with the Pat McAfee Show, but we're going to rewind a little bit. About a week ago, Ted Karras, Bengals center, of course, went on the Pat McAfee Show, and he had some comments as far as the Bengals' slow starts. That's something that we have talked about at length. We're going to continue talking about their slow starts because it is the offseason, and this is the time to try to figure out how to prevent those slow starts from happening. Here's what Ted Karras had to say on the Pat McAfee Show. He said, I think that obviously we have to change something with these 0-2, 0-3 starts. I think maybe spring might look a little different too. I don't know what that's going to entail, but I know that's going probably some more playing time in these preseason games for the starters. That would probably be the easiest thing to change and try to switch up that early season mojo. I love hearing this from a veteran guy, right? Ted Karras is all football at all times, and really it is a treat to have him here in Cincinnati. But to have him on board, you need the vets to be on board with this kind of stuff, because if the vets are saying, you know what, I played in the preseason early in my career, I'm kind of done with that, then you could have some issues. I think this is great that Karras is coming out there and saying, hey, we might need to go out there and do it. And it's something that guys are going to have to buy into, right? And when the leaders of the football team are buying into it, that's certainly going to be beneficial for those guys. If Burrow and those guys also buy into it, I would love to hear like a Logan Wilson, somebody on defense, because I think that really is the key group that needs to play in the preseason because the tackling is so bad in the beginning of the year. Hopefully more guys continue to come out there and say it, because really, as of course a non-football coach, I'm not close to the team whatsoever. I don't know exactly how you fix these slow starts, but I think the most logical thing, as Ted Karras alluded to, is go out there and play a little bit more in the preseason. This is what the Bengals have done under Zach Taylor in the month of September. Obviously, this is not getting it done, right? It's making things very, very difficult on your football team. You've always been able to battle back and get into the postseason despite these slow starts. 2024 finally bit you in the rear end. Despite the fact you rattled off so many wins to end the season, you still were on the outside looking in. We'll continue with our show here in a moment, but first, I do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that Bengals sideline hats are out now. They are available now. Actually, Bengals draft hats, not sideline hats, because it is April and the draft is right around the corner. They've got some really cool ones up there. I have not gotten any of these myself yet, but really am looking forward to making that purchase. You guys can do that as well. chatsports.com/Bengals draft hats. We will put that link in the comments section and the description of today's show. Some more news/rumors we'll get to here on today's show. There's been some rumblings in regards to the Bengals schedule. Obviously, we've talked earlier on Bengals Breakdown about the Bengals perhaps playing in Madrid. That's something Joe Burrow really would like to do. Now some rumblings about the Bengals playing on Thanksgiving night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, you're in a spot there on Thanksgiving where those first two games are kind of set in stone, as we'll get to here in a second. That third game, that night game, always rotates. Maybe Cincinnati finds themselves in that window on Thanksgiving. Here is what Mike North had to say, and Mike North is the NFL Vice President of Broadcasting Planning and Scheduling. This is what he had to say to Jeff Hobson, who, of course, does a tremendous job covering the Bengals for Bengals.com. North said Dallas and Detroit are traditional venues for Thanksgiving Day, but that Thanksgiving night game moves around. You talk about that Cincy-Pittsburgh game. That could be a possible game. Could the Bengals and the Steelers meet each other on Thanksgiving night? That's an option as well. Look, the Bengals are going to continue to play in these primetime games so long as Joe Burrow is here, and I think now with T. Higgins coming back, Jamar Chase coming back, they're always going to be a team that the NFL looks at to play in these kinds of big-time games. I think Thanksgiving certainly fits right into that category as well. The NFL, they love their stars. Now, it's kind of hard to believe, right, because Cincinnati, small market, the NFL has never really put Cincinnati in the spotlight, but they understand that they got one of the best quarterbacks in Joe Burrow and the high, star receivers in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So the Bengals are going to continually be in these talks. I think it's very exciting for us as a fan base to perhaps see them in these kind of island games, right? We saw them in a bunch last year, and, they put on a show. Didn't win a ton of them, but they seemingly always were great games. The NFL is going to fall in love with the Bengals more and more each year as long as those three guys stay healthy, and wouldn't surprise me at all if they opted to put the Bengals on Thanksgiving night. Let me know Would you like to see the Cincinnati Bengals a part of your Thanksgiving Day come next year in November? What do you guys think? Would you like to see them in prime time on Thanksgiving? Type Y for yes or N for no. Last thing before we get out of here. On today's show, we got another trade proposal here. This one, too, from Bill Barnwell of ESPN in regards to Trey Hendrickson getting shipped off to another football team. The team on the receiving end of Trey Hendrickson in this trade proposal from Bill Barnwell is the Detroit Lions. They would get Trey Hendrickson and a 2025 second-round pick, the Bengals' 49th overall pick in the draft. Cincinnati would get a first-round pick, 28 overall, and also a fourth-round pick, number 130 overall as well. Look, I'm out on this one, to be completely honest with you. There's a couple of different reasons why. I know I've said, hey, first rounder, I'll do it, but you're also losing a second-round pick, right? You're not getting that one. You're not able to keep that one as well. And it's a first rounder, which really is, high value. But it's the Lions who just had an incredible season. That first rounder is at 28 overall, and as we've talked about here on the show, this draft is not very deep, really. So you're not getting a top 10 player, top 12 player, obviously, if you are picking at that 28 spot. Also, he could be the missing piece for this Detroit Lions football team. I know they kind of choked it away in the playoffs this past year, but they were dominant during the season. They were awesome, and Aiden Hutchinson obviously suffered that awful injury, but assuming he's going to come back and be healthy, you pair him up with Trey Hendrickson, my goodness, you might be looking at Trey Hendrickson squaring off against him in the Super Bowl, and that's not something you want to do if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. It's not like you would be trading within a division here, but I don't think it'd be a good idea to give one of the best defensive players in football to one of the best football teams in football, and again, perhaps give them that final piece to their puzzle. We'll see if this thing turns ugly with Trey Hendrickson. I think it probably will, but it's kind of a matter of when it turns ugly. Because if it turns really, really ugly really, really soon, then you might see a trade, right? But I don't think that necessarily is going to happen. If it gets ugly post-draft, Cincinnati's not going to move Trey Hendrickson for a pick that they can't even use during the 2025 season, if you get what I'm saying. If you trade him after the draft, you're getting compensation with the 2026 pick. I don't think that's something Cincinnati would do. Obviously, we are now in the month of April. The draft is in a few weeks. So if something in regards to a trade with Trey Hendrickson is going to get done, it would be before the NFL draft. Make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. All of our Bengals breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. Don't miss out on any of that. Follow me at StoneShields_.